Hey everybody, this is Greg Ryder, CEO and founder of Angel Investors Network, and we are live with another amazing interview with an amazing opportunity. And let me start by sharing with all the people that are watching this live right now and don't know who Angel Investors Network is. Angel Investors Network was formed in 1997. I'm a former investment banker. I've been investing in early stage companies my entire life. Actually, it's my entire adult life. I wasn't doing it when I was a kid. And I love entrepreneurs. I love innovation. And I'm a big, humongous proponent of free enterprise and capitalism. And Angel Investors Network is at angelnetwork.com. Our mission is to help entrepreneurs succeed. And our goal is to bring entrepreneurs and investors together to, again, perpetuate free enterprise, perpetuate capitalism, and help the America be the great country that it was built on free enterprise and capitalism. So we're education based. We like to educate entrepreneurs, and we also like to educate the new investor. With all the new crowdfunding laws, which we're going to be talking about today, with our interview, and all the new laws out there, there's tens of thousands and soon to be millions of new investors coming into the investment pool. And we want to make sure that everyone gets the education and the understanding, so when they make investments, they understand the risks associated with those investments. So whenever I do an interview like we're doing today, not only are we going to share with you an investment opportunity and how that works and what that looks like, but we're also hoping that some entrepreneurs are watching this as well, and you can gain some valuable information for your deal, your opportunity with that. So with that being said, I am very happy to announce that I have Jeremy Kuhn on with us. And I believe this is Jeremy's first hangout. I seem to have a lot of that happen. And Jeremy is the Chief Executive Officer of the Dot Green Community, Inc. Jeremy, I appreciate you joining me today.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Look forward to sharing with you and your subscribers a little bit more about Dot Green. So thank you.
So is this, in fact, your first Google Hangout?
It is, in fact. And in fact, I brought on a millennial to help me set up so that I'm technically on board here. So yes, this is my first time.
Very cool. All right. Well, with that being said, so let's dive into this. So you and I recently met at an investor conference, and coincidentally, you're actually working with Bankroll.Ventures, which is a crowdfunding platform for Reg DCs and the Reg A pluses. But let's start at the beginning. Just give me a couple minutes of your background, because I know you've been involved in hedge funds and the investment community, so you understand really well what investors are looking for and what that whole investment world is talking about. But share with us a couple minutes about your background.
Sure. Thanks, Greg. So I actually started in the business in 1989. I spent close to a little over 20 years in the investment business. Throughout my entire career was actually what they refer to as the buy side. So I was the guy, the portfolio manager, the analyst, to decide whether an investment was essentially buy, sell, or hold. But I, towards the end of my career, which ended in 2008, I was head of risk management for a very large San Francisco-based hedge fund, managing several $billion. I was one of the few people that was actually successful in seeing the subprime crisis happening. And as head of risk management, I was the guy that was in charge of making sure that our fund was not negatively impacted. In 2007, my fund was the best performing in the world, with a return of 217%. At that point, Greg, I decided to go out on top. I quit the business, and several years later, in 2011, I decided to be a co-founder of a company called the Dot Green Community. Can you hear me okay, Greg? Maggie, I'm losing technical difficulty. Sorry,
I can hear you just fine. I had you muted because there's some technical difficulties on the other end, but I'm dealing with this. You just keep going.
Okay, I apologize. So to make a long story short, I am the co-founder. Dot Green Community was started in February of 2011, and the goal has been to take advantage of the new provisions that were provided by ICANN to now allow new top-level domains. And what I saw with Dot Green was actually an ability to tap into a very large multi-trillion-dollar market for green and sustainability, and to use Dot Green as really as a channel to allow companies, organizations, small business, et cetera, and provide a way to connect to consumers and customers. And Greg, I could go on for a little while longer. I could speak to how much capital's been raised, et cetera. But that's kind of an overview of my background.
No, that's fantastic. And I think that's important. So again, going back to the investors listening and the entrepreneurs listening, he's got a background in this. So I think that's one of the things investors, and we're always teaching investors to look for, is the management team and where they come from and what they have and what's going on. And then from an entrepreneur standpoint, you really need to add these kind of people to your team. So let's move forward to, you guys have done something that I don't believe has ever been done before. And I just think it's fascinating because when you look at it, until I met you and saw your presentation, it didn't really hit me over the head, but it did. Like when I saw you give your presentation, it hit me over the head like with a hammer, which is why I wanted to do this interview. You guys were able to secure the top level domain .green. So let's first describe what is a top level domain, and then I want you to tell us about how you acquired that.
Sure, Greg. So a top level domain is really, for your viewers, is really nothing more than .com, .net, or .org, but it's a piece of the internet. We, as .green community, were able to secure the rights to the top level domain. We are partnered with the people that run the world's second largest top level domain, which is .org. And so when somebody buys a .green address, the people at .org are really our infrastructure on the back end. And so they are our partners going forward. And the way I viewed it was, in the past 25 years or so, a top-level domain hasn't really meant anything. What does .com mean? I'm really not quite sure. Then you have .org that tried to sort of do a little bit of sort of differentiation. But the point is, Greg, is my 20 years of background experience, I saw from a very large macro level that the world was going from a West Coast, liberals in Berkeley with green and sustainability, to where, as I think I may have said to you when I met you, is that my first client actually was General Motors, who literally saw the amazing opportunity to keep their GeneralMotors.com, but who bought a .green website and has built out a .green website for GeneralMotors.com, illustrating their sustainability programs, their electric vehicles, etc. Greg, one thing that's very important, I then looked at this thing and said, I'm not a branding marketing expert. I don't know, but my gut tells me I'm onto something. I then brought in a gentleman who is now our newly elected chairman of the board. His name is David Maddox. David was the guy that turned around the Converse brand at Nike. He then worked with Bono on the Red campaign and is currently chief marketing officer for Cole Haan. David Maddox looked at what we were trying to achieve and said, Jeremy, it took Coca-Cola 100 years to build a brand. You have, with green, a word that is recognized around the world, whether it's China, India, Latin America. And that's what we intend to do, Greg, is to literally create green as the sustainability channel, if you will, for people on a global basis.
No, so I love that. And that's what's so unique about what I said in my emails to our database, and what I want to say to you guys today is, like, you look at all the top level domains, and if you're not familiar with them, they have .book and .edu, and there's hundreds of them now. And you're thinking, oh, it's a big mess, and sure, you could buy them, but what's the meaning to it? And here you have .green, and here's this term that's globally recognized as, doing good for our environment. But let's do this. Let's follow this. And let's break this up into two parts. We'll come back to the brand here in a few minutes. Going back to the top level domains. So now when I go to GoDaddy, when I go to, and I'm actually a reseller for GoDaddy, and so I can actually sell your domains. How much do they sell for? What is the kind of the cost of goods? And then see if you give me some numbers that are associated with some other top level domains, and how many people buy these on an annual basis.
Sure, Greg. Well, one of the things that we decided early on is that we were not going to go down the discount route. And this is primarily where you see domainers and you see people on GoDaddy that say, I'll buy a .club for $9.99. And by the way, GoDaddy will give you 3 other names in a bulk package. We are building a global brand. When you build a brand, whether it's Ralph Lauren or whatever, you don't start off by discounting it and doing bulk volume. In terms of the numbers, and this is important for your investors to understand why an investment in .green, what I believe, and I've put a lot of money in my own 5 years experience into, is the following, Greg. When GoDaddy sells a .green name, they sell it for $99.99. So let's call it $100. I receive $50. So my wholesale price is $50. That is on your standard name, whether it's Joe's Landscaping .green. I then have what's referred to as premium names that are priced between $500 to $1,500 that are tiered 1 through 7 that is also available. I then have what's referred to as 2-letter names. And a perfect example is I just sold last month Mr.Green, Mr.Green, and sold that for $15,000 to a gentleman over in Europe. This is very early stage. And then to finally sort of give a sense as to the value proposition is I own 2,900 what's referred to as registry reserve names. So whether it's energy.green or water.green or whatever, that I could see the people like General Electric paying millions of dollars. I'm in no rush to monetize these, but it's something as I build the brand, these are going to become very, very valuable properties of .green. Now, in terms of the quick numbers, Greg, my margins are 90%. My renewal rate is 80% annualized, basically an annuity rate. So renewal is 80%. And what people need to understand is that .green is owned in perpetuity. There will never be another .green. We are first to market. So the barriers of entry, which is everything that I looked for as a 20-year investing veteran, is we've got a very, very profitable business margin, and it's highly scalable, meaning that there's not a lot of fixed cost to grow the business. And then, Greg, I'd like the opportunity, perhaps in part 2, is to share with your viewers some of the partners that I intend working with that I think will give people a sense of why it's different from other top-level domains.
Oh, very cool. So let me drill down on a couple things. So again, you gotta love a business with 90% margins, right? It's just like, it's just awesome. So that's one of the things I love about software technology, the new age, the information, is when you can do a business like that, it's incredible. And then build a brand on top of that, just mind boggling. But 90% margins, and then you have the 80% renewal rate, right? And I want to just make sure everyone understands. You sold one domain for $15,000, but the renewal rate's not $15,000, right? So even though they paid $15,000 for the premium top level domain, the renewal rate's going to be what?
Believe it or not, Greg, and this is a new ruling, but the renewal rate on a 2-letter is the same as the original price, which is $15,000.
Really?
Yes. Now that's very unique. It's a fairly new ruling. Our partner affiliates, which are the people that run .org, this has been the new infrastructure put in place. And the reason is, Greg, is because ICANN held up these 2-letter names for over a year because they represent country codes. So for example, CN is for China. So the countries had to vet the process for the last year or so. But in 2-letter words, if you buy it for 15, you want to renew it, it's for 15,000. As it relates to everything else, it's $100 renewal rate.
Gotcha. Okay. So again, and I have a little experience in this, and I got to tell a quick little story, Jeremy. So when back in 1997, I think it was, I had these young kids work for me that were interning from high school, and they actually went on to go to work at MIT, or went to school at MIT. But they told me, Greg, you got to start buying domains. You got to start buying all these domains. And back then, domains were, I think, were $100 for everything, or $35 to $100. I can't remember. And they were telling me I should buy all these domains and be the domain squatter. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm not going to go spend a bunch of money on all these domains. Well, because of that, and because I've heard some of these domains selling for $1 million and $7 million and $5 million and $3 million and hundreds of thousands of dollars, I kick myself every time I think of that story. So that's what I wanted to kind of share with you guys listening today is Jeremy, because they invested in and bought the rights to the top level domain, they have already reserved a number of these, and they're not even selling them. You can't even go buy them right now. They're going to wait until they get the more momentum, more brand recognition, and they get the value of that up, and then they can sell those domains for millions and millions of dollars, which again, from an investment standpoint, is like, this is amazing.
Yeah, no, thanks, Greg. And that is a good way. I mean, the way I think your viewers should look at it is that I'm owning a piece of real estate on the internet in perpetuity, but I can share with everybody that this is something that I have been at it for 5 years. The company was originally, the concept goes back about 7 years, but I have, and it's very important for everybody to know, I have worked for the last 5 years pro bono. This has been all my own investment in both time and money. I am an investor in this recent capital raise that maybe Greg can refer to give your viewers a sense. But my money is definitely where my mouth is. And I have a great board of directors. Some of my early investors, Greg, I think it's important for people to understand, they come from the investing business. So I have guys personally, through my relationships, that work for the likes of Goldman Sachs and Deutsche Bank and the private equity firm Cerberus, and very, very sophisticated guys. Those are my early investors. And so people coming in at this stage are really joining in a very sophisticated group. And then we've got all the wonderful opportunities with Reg A Plus in front of us that you alluded to, Greg.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, because that's another teaching moment right there. So you'll see a lot on the new crowdfunding platforms and the raises. It'll show who the leading investors are, whether that's, some VC firms or some big name investors. We start to show that stuff because, again, it gives the small, uneducated, less connected investors some credibility. Like, hey, this guy's at least risking his money and putting his money on the line. So that's pretty significant. Can you share with us what you guys paid for that top level domain? I know you mentioned to me, but I wanted to see if you're able to share that.
Unfortunately, Greg, I prefer not to share this at this point, and that's just to do with some privacy issues. Okay. That is in our documents that have been filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission, but for competitive reasons, at this point, I prefer not to share, if you don't
Gotcha.
mind.
No, and that's why I asked that, because you always got to be sensitive when we're doing these public type things, that we don't say something that lets out some intellectual property or that kind of stuff. So again, teaching moment for the entrepreneurs and the investors out there. Okay, so now let's talk about, I think you had mentioned to me, and maybe you just said it, I was trying to, we are having some technical difficulties on the end side, so we're hoping that the recordings looks like it's going fine and everyone will get the recording. But with that being said, you had mentioned to me that how many people own and have paid for, let's say, a .org domain or a .edu, or do you have any numbers on the numbers
Sure.
of those kind of annual domain purchases and renewals?
Well, I could just look at .org, which I believe, second largest, and they're probably approaching, and Greg, I don't have the numbers offhand, but I'm going to say 60 million. The leader obviously is .com, with, in the 100 million plus, I think it's 150 million. But here's the thing. The ruling body of the internet, ICANN, that decided to allow new top-level domains, the reason they did this, Greg, is because all the .com names and all the good names on the internet have been taken, okay? So I see a huge opportunity for whether it's millennials that care about sustainability and really don't even know what com or means or anything like that, small businesses, and this is why I'm working with Google, and we'll talk about this later, small businesses that are going online that all the .com or orgs or nets are taken, but they're in the business of showcasing what they're doing, whether it's social responsibility investing, whether it's this COP21 Accord, Greg, that came out of Paris, which is climate change. 195 nations worldwide have agreed for carbon reduction, and they need to share with their country and people around the world what they're doing. What better way than to use a .green website? So Maggie, the numbers in 2012 were 10 million.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Greg. I'm just trying to verify the numbers. I'd say we're looking at about 15 million. I apologize for .org, Greg, as an example.
Well, I just wanted to kind of say that and kind of go over that real quick because let's think about this for a minute. If there was 5 million people that say 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now, end up getting a .green and the renewal's $50, that's $250 million a year. So you cut that down to just 1 million, right? Okay, now you got 50 million a year with 90% margins, and that's just on the domain renewals. And anybody listening, I'm sitting there going, it just seems impossible to think that you wouldn't get 1 million people, right? 1 million people to buy a .green domain in the next 3 to 5 years. I can't even fathom that.
Absolutely, Greg. And actually what I'd like to share on a high level is some of our strategies. So our target market are starting with China. China, we are working with some folks over in Shanghai that are going to be doing a TV show. They have rebranded their TV show from the ecocapitalist.com to invest.green. They have been approved by the Chinese government, and they will be running a TV show which will have 1 billion users. And they will be doing an hour-long show about solar companies in China, green sustainability, which, by the way, is the most important thing for the Chinese government right now, given their last 30 years of polluting the air. They meaning invest.green, will be promoting .green top-level domains in China. I have the likes of Baidu and WeChat, who are Chinese-based companies, and I'm talking to them about being Chinese-based resellers of the .green name. And Greg, what we're doing, which is very unique from others, is that we actually have our own cash register. So there's GoDaddy and there's all the others that we deal with, but we actually have domains.green where we can actually use that as a hub, if you will, so that people around the world, let's start China, India, etc., can actually be resellers of the .green name. And because of the high margins, they can still make a very good profit. And so I'm really now expanding my sales force on a global basis.
No, it's just fantastic and exciting. And, we talk about in the investment world, especially in the angel investment world all the time, about these unicorn deals where, they have the opportunity to become a multi-billion-dollar market cap. And you certainly have positioned yourself and did some strategic things to put yourself in that position, in my opinion. And again, that's my opinion. Every investor needs to do their own due diligence, get their own stuff and that kind of stuff. But it's pretty amazing. So let's kind of merge over to some examples of, okay, now you've convinced me that, hey, there's going to be people that want to have a .green address with some marketing strategies, some things of that nature. I need to have it. I want to have it. Now let's talk about how you merge in the branding side of that. Give us some help me with my creative thought process of, give me an idea of how you could leverage brand and other brands, like you said with General Motors, with the .green, and how that equates to money and increase in shareholder value.
Sure. So as I mentioned, our new chairman of the board is David Maddox, who's a brand manager for Cole Haan and understands it better than anything. Greg, I'm just going to throw out some of the ideas that expand beyond the top level domain, which we are in discussions with. For example, we are going to be working with Google for our digital marketing campaign. So the capital that's raised in this $3.5 million accredited investors, Reg D, and then moving on to the Reg A plus, we are allocating some significant funds to Google, who will be basically using their outreach, using the YouTube search AdWords campaign. They will be pushing .green from a branding perspective in terms of offering up opportunities. The second thing, and once again, this seems to be Google-centric, but we think we're very complementary. We have the idea about Gmail.green being offered for free by Google, of which any advertiser that now knows exactly what the demographic is And the reason I got this idea was from David Maddox of Cole Haan, where he said 70% of their advertising budget goes on a Gmail address. You could have a gmail.green, sell targeted advertising, and then .green community would have a revenue share with Google. And so now we're morphing into another iteration of the branding opportunity. And I'm actually now having an opportunity to share revenue with Google, the world's largest company by market valuation as of today. They just passed Apple. And I see some amazing synergies, Greg. And last thing I want to leave you with is the concept. We are in discussions with Google is about search.green. So I own the word. One of the key words that our registry reserve is the word search. I see having search.green and using it the equivalent of a Yelp, but people that are searching for sustainability, Jessica Alba's products at Target, etc. I will be partnered with Google. Google sells advertising. I get a revenue share from the website hits as a result of .green addresses. So there's some wonderful, obviously these are evolving, Greg, but there's some wonderful opportunities going forward.
Yeah, no, I just love it. And you know what? I hope you remember me. I'm gonna have this video as proof, right? Someday, right? That's awesome. So let me bring a couple points from Greg's perspective. So everyone who knows me for any length of time knows I love marketing, and I'm a self-proclaimed marketing guru. So here's something that I want to share with everyone listening, just so you I want to emphasize a couple of the points here. One is Google contacted Jeremy about helping them with their marketing through the AdWords and through their YouTube and through their advertising platform. That, first of all, doesn't happen very often. I mean, obviously it does, but it's not like Google's cold calling and calling people saying we want your business. They're doing it because they know how valuable it is. That's one. Two, I have to say this about that. I have relationships with people that are tied into Google. And there's not very many of them around the nation that have certain levels of tie-in to Google. But one of my friends worked for Tom's Shoes, and they were spending upwards of $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a day advertising Tom's Shoes, got a relationship with Google. And anyway, to make a long story short, through all my relationships, what I've heard and what I found is it's almost like cheating when it comes to advertising, because and Jeremy saw me teach in Atlanta, Georgia about marketing and profiling and getting your identical customer. But can you imagine if you had Google's advertising team put together your advertising campaign, and they want to help profile your investor, profile your target market, and get you in front of the right people, in front of the right videos, and they control all the videos on YouTube, they control all the search on Google, they know exactly who to get you in front of, and they can put you in front of there, and they can scale you like that. I mean, literally, they could take domain registrations for this company upwards of probably 1,000 a day, 100,000 a day. It's just amazing. And so that is an amazing opportunity that they are working on. And again, in full disclosure, it's not done, it's not signed yet. But that's and I was trying to get that business. So I was aced out by Google. So that's funny.
That's right. And just to be very clear to you and your viewers, these are ongoing discussions. This is nothing that's been signed on, but I am meeting actually with the Google team in New York next week, and then follow-up meeting with Google Domains the following week. But let's be clear, these are preliminary discussions. Some of them have been going on longer than others, but at least it gives your viewers a sense of the possibilities. And the fact that I'm literally a ferry boat ride away from Google, I actually have relationships with them on other ends. They're a perfect partner for us. The fact that they are very interested about the green business segment of the market and selling ancillary services. We are very interested about, talking with them about, showcasing their green servers for internet, website design. So there's a lot of things, Greg, but, I just really want to make sure that we understand that this is a discussion about our business model, but nothing's written in stone at this point. That's
Yeah.
very.
Well, and as it relates to the Google advertising model, I mean, one of the reasons that Jeremy's going to the crowd and raising capital is because he likes the new laws. He likes, he's all about free enterprise and capitalism. But that money that investors will be investing in his corporation is nothing more than a tool to pull these triggers. So I can guarantee you that if your budget's big enough, Google will take your money and help you with your advertising. That's what they do, right? So if Jeremy was to come back and say, I got $1,000 a day budget, then he might not get that deal. But if he comes and says, I got $100,000 a month budget, he's going to get that. They're going to sign a deal with him. I mean, I know that because I have dealt with that on that end. Same thing with Facebook and anybody else. So that's just amazing. So now let me make another comment on the search, because I don't remember hearing you say this before. And this is just another amazing situation, because we all know how big search is, right? Google proved that, right? Yahoo, Bing, search is huge. And the idea that you could niche the search to green through search.green is amazing. And it would make sense for a Google or a Yahoo or a Bing to partner with Jeremy and say, we want to be the ones that power that. So he's going to put himself in a situation where he's going to have a little bidding war and maybe leverage somebody else's technology to do it. But that's another one of those things that just, and again, here's how I'm going to articulate it. And you tell me if this makes sense. You're kind of taking what is already a brand. I mean, green and the green movement is already global. It's already worldwide. And you're giving it something tangible to attach itself to through these top level domains.
That's exactly right, Greg. And that's where I had my epiphany as I went, where's the fastest growth? And by the way, where are the countries that need to talk about green and sustainability the most? And where's the countries that have the fastest growth, internet usage and mobile? And guess what? They're euphemistically called the BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Russia, I'm not so sure about right now, but let's just talk about Brazil, India, China. These are countries that are massively going online. And guess what? This is a whole new target audience where you can take companies that branded themselves in bricks and mortar, and now they're going over to the internet, and instantaneously they can connect with a customer, with a consumer. We're talking to Costa Rica about rebranding their eco-capitalism with a Costa Rica.green. It's perfect. It's seamless. And by the way, it's very cost effective. Companies can spend millions of dollars in print media and TV advertising, and they can literally shift to a .green address, keep everything else the same. And I'm not challenging COM. I'm just saying, use us as the new channel. And by the way, Greg, we're talking, it's expected by 2020, it'll be a $10 trillion investment pool for green and sustainability. Standard & Poor's came out after the Paris Accord for climate change. They're expecting another 16 trillion to be dedicated away from coal and iron ore and steel towards green sustainability and investments and green tech. And guess what? We have the branding tool online using that top level domain green. Yes.
It's an amazing opportunity. It's all why I said in my email. It's just so unique, and again, that's what we love about what we do here at Angel Investors Network is we have amazing deal flow, and being able to share that with other investors and entrepreneurs from a learning perspective is fantastic. Okay, so let's move into crowdfunding and kind of what we're doing with Bankroll, or what you're doing with Bankroll, and then we'll wrap things up here in about 10 minutes or so. So
okay.
What I mean, you have the relationships. You already brought in some investors. What attracted you to the whole crowdfunding and that kind of stuff?
Absolutely, Greg. Well, I'll tell you, from a guy that spent 20 years in the public markets and started before the internet actually went live in '94, I've seen a lot of changes. And what I'll say to your viewers, which I think is on a big picture level, is to understand that the stock market right now is too transparent. There's too much information, and it's too highly correlated. Meaning that if in China, the night before, China decides to depreciate their currency, Bank of America stock will go down the next day. Biotech will go down. Facebook will go down. Highly correlated, but there's no competitive edge for investing. What attracted me to crowdsource funding is two things, Greg. I love the idea that it's private equity, so it's not highly correlated to the public markets. But secondarily, here in my background is Silicon Valley, I see guys that are early and in the next Uber and the next Facebook, etc. And it's really the big boys club, and you have to have the right pool of capital, and it's all high net worth family office. And so for your investor base, they will never have an opportunity to invest. I met Kendall Almarico through an introduction, a gentleman that was buying Invest.Green. And I love the concept of Reg A Plus, where I would say, Greg, it's really the democratization of the investment process that allows small investors to participate along with the big guys in what I would call stage companies before, whether they're IPO'd or whatever. And so I see what Bankroll Ventures is. I was very impressed, Greg, by your presentation. And I think it's well overdue. And finally, the SEC, after 5 years, agreed to approve this Reg A Plus. But I think this is the start of a new paradigm shift for investing, and especially related to small investors.
I couldn't have said it any better, because I say that all the time, Jeremy. It's like, my dad was in that good old boy club when I got into the securities industry, and he taught me how to invest. And it's like, that's what Angel Investors Network is about. And the word democratization of the funding process is fantastic. And it just gives the small guy a chance to get in. So right now you're doing an offering under the exemption Reg D subsection C that says we can advertise and market the opportunity, but only accredited investors can invest. And that's for $3.5 million. And that's right now live on bankroll.ventures. And then you're going to take that, and then you're going to roll into a Reg A Plus for a larger amount. So can you talk about, if the world is perfect, what's the timeline of these financings? And
Sure.
Again, by the way, for those who don't know about the Reg A Plus will actually be an actual filing with the SEC, and it will allow small investors that don't have to be accredited to invest. So again, giving the small person the chance to really get involved in something significant.
Sure. So Greg, the Regulation D, I am putting my full efforts, obviously working with Bankroll Ventures, with their broker, a dealer on record, which is Source Capital Group, and as well as networking with my own reach of accredited investors, Greg. My goal is to get this capital raise closed as quickly as possible. The turnaround time in a perfect world, the most recent check I've learned, is approximately a 60-day turnaround between the time that you filed with the SEC and the time that you get approved. And the funds, Greg, are going to be used. It is not cheap to file for a Regulation A Plus. We are currently conducting our 2-year audit, so we are working as we speak. But I would say in a perfect world, we're looking probably the next 3 to 4 months at the outside to be up and running, approved by the SEC for a Regulation A Plus. Yes, that's about the timeline.
Very cool. So all of you on our list, we'll be notifying you and updating you. And again, if you're interested in this, we're not selling securities. That's not what we're doing here. That's done at bankroll.ventures. You have to sign up. You have to accreditate yourself as an accredited investor. And only as an accredited investor, then that technology platform will deliver the documents to you. And you can review all the documents and obviously get in touch with Jeremy and the executive management team if need be. As well as have the broker at Source Capital contact you, maybe answer any questions you may have. So that's bankroll.ventures, not .com, .ventures, bankroll.ventures. And from the homepage, you can hit Browse Investments. You'll see that .green is up there as one of the investment opportunities on Bankroll Ventures. And in full disclosure, Angel Investors Network and our subsidiary Angel Marketing, we do have a relationship, and we are part owners in Bankroll. And so, we're self-fulfilling and sharing, our deals with our investors because we want to help promote what we're doing. And we're real picky. And again, I really don't have much of a say, but Kendall and Source Capital are very picky about the deals that go on the platform, which is a good thing because in our business, you're only as good as your last deal, right? So.
Yes. And Greg, I would just like to say conversely, .Green community is very picky with who they partner as well. We did our own due diligence on Kendall Almarico. Just so your viewers know, he's considered one of the leading Regulation A Plus attorneys in the country. And I have met with the CEO of Source Capital, and then obviously had the opportunity to spend time with Greg in Atlanta. And from our perspective, we're very happy to work with you guys.
No, thank you for that. We thank you very much for that. So I think that's all my questions. Do you have anything else that we've missed out that we need to share with people, or what else are we missing out, or should we wrap it up?
You know, Greg, I think we covered a lot. You know, we're basically offering investors an opportunity. I think the best way to say it is to get in on the ground floor. I firmly believe, after spending 5 years on a lot of my own money and surrounding myself with a good team, great board of directors, as you mentioned, you know, the wonderful opportunity to work with folks like Google. I am extremely excited about where we are today. And I think this is, in my humble opinion, that I put my own money into this last month. I am very confident that this will be a successful deal, and hopefully a very good reflection on you, Greg, being an early guy to find Duck Green. So I think that wraps it up for me. Thank you.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Well, this is Greg Ryder, CEO of Angel Investors Network. And if you're an entrepreneur watching this, you want to get some help, go check out angelnetwork.com. Consider joining our network. If you're a new investor and you're watching Shark Tank TV show, or you're saying, hey, I want to get involved in this stuff, I need more deal flow, we want some more education stuff, go to angelnetwork.com, sign up as an investor, and we'll get you our newsletter. We'll get you in our membership, and we'll continue to share deals with you. We don't do any high pressure sales. We don't even sell investments. All we do is market, and do our marketing side and share these with you and send you to the place where you can get the information to make an investment and check things out. Do your due diligence, get your own attorneys, get your own stuff, make sure you're comfortable. We just want to share with you cool deals. So with that, Jeremy, I say thank you very much. We appreciate it. And we will sign off. And I always sign off all my videos by saying, do what I do, wake up every day with an attitude of gratitude. Tell somebody you love them, and I promise you'll have a better day. This is Greg Ryder saying, see you later.
Thank you.